Hey everybody, Coach here. Hey, man, I'm glad you took a couple of minutes to join me here today. We are going to talk about a landscape topic that maybe isn't at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. You know, in this day and age, it is, to me, and from the history and background that I have, to me, it's frightening. It's absolutely frightening what people consider normal behavior nowadays, or vengeful behavior. You know, we read about it all the time on various media platforms of one kind or another. It seems like every other week there's something bad going on that just doesn't make any sense. You know, think about it a second. And I am going to go way out on a limb here and assume that most of my audience would think the mindset of a person who gets it in their head that it's okay to go onto someone else's property or in someone else's home uninvited and without permission, you know, you have to have a special nick in your noggin to get to that point in life. You really do. You know, today we're addressing security issues around your home. Now, do I consider myself a security expert? No. Do I have some experience in security and security issues? Yes. But we're talking about it from a landscape perspective. How you can apply landscape techniques and approaches to better enhance your home security. Again, I'm glad you're here. Take a few minutes if you would. Hit subscribe if you like what you hear, and hit that like button so you can help the channel out. I have really appreciated all the support, both in subscribers and in emails and comments over the past few weeks. I really have. So let's keep that ball rolling. Hey, I'll be right back. So, what does home security mean to you? You know, for some, it's probably, you know, are all the doors and windows locked? You know, for others, it's that they are armed 24/7 in one form or another. Another way of securing our homes is with a great, loyal, and large enough FIDO to take care of business if something should really go down. And for others, it's all about tech. $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 spent on electronic security with infrared cameras, motion detection lights, and all the other bells and whistles. Well, all of this comes together in a good, solid foundation. But how does landscaping blend into this equation? That's what we're talking about here today. So today we're going to delve a little deeper into things outside your home, outside in the yard and the landscape, starting with the outside approach and then working towards the house. Believe it or not, how you lay out a landscape can greatly enhance your security, and with using a few elements, shall we say, can greatly deter people who are thinking about doing things that are unthinkable. You know, personally, I think it's appalling that we would have to have with this conversation. You know, 150, 200 years ago, you know, the chances are of people locking their doors every night, leaving keys, you know, when vehicles were out, leaving keys in the vehicle without even thinking about it, whether it was ever going to be stolen. You know, walking down the streets, walking down back alleys with hardly a care in the world. Those days have changed. Would you agree with me there? Tell me, how secure do you feel in and around the neighborhood you're in? Drop me a comment below. Let's talk about it. You know, let's talk about it in depth. You can always have a personal conversation on email. You can drop me a line, youryardcoach@gmail.com. But nowadays, I don't know, maybe Maestro and I just that's why we kind of gave up the mainstream media all the time. You know, we got tired of hearing all that negative. Made someone paranoid after a while. Home invasions, workplace violence, school violence, crashes, road rage, all the crap that goes on in this society today. Okay, Coach, get on with it. How does landscaping play into this? Okay, I'll tell you. When you are landscaping, when you are re-landscaping, security can play a big part in how you lay the yard out. You know, back in the day of 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even into the 80s, and that's when there was a little paradigm shift in landscape style, you basically saw the 2 to 3 foot foundation bed and lawn and a tree, and the back patio with lawn and 3-foot fence perimeter, and that was the landscape of the day. And the selections that were used back then often required hedge clippers and trimmers on a multi-month basis every year. Because if you didn't, they would start growing up the side of the house and blocking windows and over encroaching onto walkways and the ability to get indoors, because people oftentimes planted on what they liked at the time of purchase and not for what it was going to be at maturity. So I can remember my first house in Hayward, California. There were camellias planted in front of the big picture window out in the living room. The window was 6 feet off the ground. It was a tri-level type of house, and you had to walk up a bunch of stairs to get into the main level. Those camellias, when I bought the house, were probably 30 plus years old, and they had been allowed to grow to where 3/4 of that big picture window was covered up. It was one of the first things that I did, was I nipped and tucked that thing back down below window level, and then redid some window dressings and that kind of stuff. Now there was no place for creepers and peepers to hide up underneath that, climb the camellia, which you literally could do. They were so big, there was 3 of them, and you could jimmy windows and that kind of stuff. So when we are planning out a landscape for the purposes of aesthetics, the purposes of eye appeal and sale appeal, but also security. And here's 4 things that I came up with. I'm sure there are more, and I'd love to hear from you guys of what you think about it. But here's 4 main topics that I kind of settle on when it comes to landscaping around the yard and the property for security purposes. I'm going to go through them real fast. I'm going to break them down in a minute, but I'm going to give you all 4 rapid fire. You ready? Here we go. Number 1 is line of sight. Line of sight, which we will go into. Number 2 is height control. Height control. Number 3 is ease of access. And number 4 is illumination. All of those kind of come into play when we're talking about a landscape layout. So let's dive into number 1. Let's dive into line or lines of sight. If you think about it, lines of sight are things where you have a continuous visual connection to an object close and far away that is unobstructed and unencumbered. Well, when it comes to security, line of sight can be very, very important. So at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, when you hear that giant bump in the night, isn't it nice to get up and be able to look out your bedroom, walk through the house, look out the family room, look out the kitchen, and you don't have something blocking your line of sight. You don't have bushes, you don't have structures, you don't have tree trunks, etc. And you can assess and determine if there's something visually to pay attention to or not. That's, basically your first step, right? Your first step is you heard it. Second step is, do I see it? So here we go. Lines of sight. When you have windows, patio sliders, kitchen windows, especially bedroom and bathroom windows, these are things that you do not want blocked. You can have them obscured on the inside, maybe with blinds, maybe with curtains, maybe with opaque glass for the bathroom windows, etc. But you don't want them obscured for you able to see out. That's very, very important, at least from my perspective, and I think Maestro's as well, very, very important. Lines of sight. So we don't want big bushes. Lines of sight, I don't know how many times I've got some comments and some questions about privacy screens, wind screens, etc. Those are all very good, but there is one drawback. Can you think about it? Privacy hedges and privacy screens, especially if they're staggered and layered, so they grow up and they're really, really thick. You can't see through them, and the wind really is broken by them. But that also allows for places where creepers and peepers can stand in there after the sun goes down, look at your house, case your house, and you never know they're there. Doggo might, but you probably will never see them. So think about that. Think about lines of sight, places to hide, etc. You want to be able to visually assess that yard quickly and rapidly. You know, during that time, that stressful moments in the middle of the night when you have to bounce out of bed and start paying attention to what's going on, this is when you have those clear lines of sight, unobstructed, and under a stressful moment, you don't have to wonder what you're looking at, what is out there. Here's another little idea. Someone taught me this many, many, many years ago. If you're having to assess a possible threat outside, don't turn all your lights on inside. Turn all your lights outside. You stay dark. Try it yourself. Go out there and do it tonight. Take a look at what it's like to be in a dark house looking out into a lit yard, and then reverse it. What's it like to be in a dark yard looking into a lit house? You will find the second part is effortless. The first part is effortless. So if you get up and you have to inspect your house, don't turn on all your lights unless you think that bump of the night was already inside. But if it was outside, stay dark, turn on lights outside. And we'll talk about illumination here in a minute. Okay, number 2, height control. Height control is very, very important. When it comes to placing landscape, greenscape, even sheds and arbors and outdoor chimeneas and all the things that could possibly block your view from various areas, height control is important. If you have a 2-story home, it's probably not quite as important. You can assess from a 2nd floor window. Really, really easy, and probably twice as fast as a ground floor window. But your plant material should stay low. Your trees should be away from the house. And then if they get big, will they be so big as where somebody could kind of like hide behind them? You know, that kind of thing. Those trees are pretty good sized trees by then. The other thing about trees is don't plant them near the house where the scaffolding can grow up near the house and allow a climbing ability up to a 2nd floor roof or a 2nd floor bedroom or window or anything up there. You know, those big tall trees like that can often afford people to get in, and all you sneaky little teenagers, you know who I'm talking to, you know exactly what it's like to get out of the window and into the tree and climb down and go have some fun. Am I right? I also invite you to go out not only for height control and lines of sight, but go out and assess. After this video, take a few minutes this evening and go out and assess what you have at those parts of your yard that are uber private. So where the bedrooms are in the house, where the bathrooms are. Do you have sheds? Do you have a wood pile? Do you have just junk stacked up and placed in places that really need to be clear and very, very viewable, shall we say? Okay, let's move forward. Number 3, ease of access. When we talk about ease of access, we're not talking necessarily about you. We're talking about ease of access for the bad guy. Oh wait, we have to say gals now too, right? Okay, so for the bad people, how's that? So we don't want to have vehicles right up next to fences. We don't want to have vehicles next to low roof lines. We don't want to have garbage cans that people can, stand on and get over fences. We don't want to have a storage situation where, and how many times have you seen this? You have a large step ladder or an extension ladder hanging on hooks on the side of a shed in a backyard. How about an invitation to the 2nd floor window that's left open during the summertime, like now, for ventilation and stuff? And you've given them, and you extend it up, and now you got ease of access, okay? So think about, storage situations, accessibility tools, and places where people can get high to get into your yard really easily. The other thing is gates. In this modern age, we don't always have to have the old string through the post latch type of situation. If you do subscribe to that, put something on the other side when you guys are asleep. Maybe a lock. Anything that slows somebody down and causes them to have to make it hard is going to be your goal all the way to the safe end. The one thing that I want to make clear in this video, and that is I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm not trying to make someone paranoid within their own home, but it is my job from my humble existence to at least have your yard set up in such a way that you can have a safe haven and a place where if you got the bad people driving by and casing the neighborhood, they look at yours and go, nah, you got this there, you got that over there. Nah, let's keep looking. And with that in mind, you have won part of the race. All right, let's move on to number 4, illumination. So when it comes to illumination, many people think landscape lighting. And if you think landscape lighting is just for landscape enhancement and ambiance, think again. When you have 12-volt installed underground cabling landscape lighting out there where you can have the pathways lit up, you can have walls washed with backlight, you can have gates illuminated, you can have trees uplit, all of that stuff not only creates the ambiance that you want to have it, but it also creates a great sense of security, and it brightens those dark places. For instance, many of you have probably gone through this, and I know I have too. How about where the garbage cans are stored inside the side gate? Dark as the inside of a cat, and yet you have to go out there and throw the trash away. Wouldn't it be nice to have a downlit area at that gate area, on that side yard, where you've spent all the time and pouring yourself a garbage can enclosure and everything? Light that area up. So whoever is taking the garbage out, whether it be you, the little ones, or whatever, there's a visual line of sight when you're walking down that side yard, going out the side garage door or whatever. The other thing is the driveways. The other thing is those big trees that I talked about that you've placed away from the house. And you light them up so nobody can climb up into the tree and look in those second-story windows. Illumination also comes in the form of solar LED lights, and they can be motion detected, and they can also be set, or you can buy them, that are large object type of sensing. Not little, like a cat, or the raccoon or possum on the fence. Not those types of motions. They can actually be a larger, and you can direct it towards where a person's height would be. When it comes to your landscape lighting, during installation, think security as well. A lot of your cabling, 95% of it is going to be underground, but the transformer has to go somewhere. And if you have it on an outside wall plug, it takes nothing for somebody who has bad intentions to just unplug it, and the whole yard goes dark. So think about that as well. Make sure your transformer is lockable. Make sure that the box where the electricity is done is securable, maybe inside of a garage, maybe inside of a locked shed. Think about that as well. Another thing to think about is switches from the inside of the house. Electrician can put them in for you, and if you're a skilled person that way, you can put them in. Remember to keep your house dark, and you turn on lights from the inside. That is where you can flood your backyard or flood your front yard as much as possible so that you're looking from a dark house out to an illuminated backyard. And don't go cheap. Don't go the smallest wattage. Light that thing up like runway 29er. I really suggest it. You're not going to be turning them on unless it's in those situations. So illumination is very, very important. Keep up on them. Check your bulbs a couple times a year and make sure everything is working. I strongly suggest that when we do landscaping or you're re-landscaping, to make sure security is at the forefront of your mind and that you really use that knowledge that you got here from this video to enhance your line of sight. Make sure you control the height of the plant material you're putting in. Make sure people do not have ease of access through side gates, up over fences because of vehicles and sheds, ladders, etc. And lastly, illumination. Make sure the place is lit up tastefully. You don't want to look like the Vegas Strip, but at the same token, you want to make sure that when you look out, you can see pretty much everything from one window of your house or another without having to struggle too much. Guys, I hope you got something out of this. I know it's a It's a weird landscape theory, but it's something that I've practiced, and I've felt pretty secure in the homes that I've been in. If you guys have any further questions, don't forget the email, youryardcoach@gmail.com. Please stick around for the plan of the week this week and take a look at some of my other videos as well. If you are still with me, consider subscribing and make sure you hit that like bell. Drop a comment in below and let's talk about this. It is a sensitive subject, I get it, but it's also a very important one, being safe and living safe in the homes that we have. Guys, to your landscape success, take care. Bye for now.